Good morning, Dr. Mona. We're going to be presenting our project, linguistics project. It's presented by Mima Ayman, Farid Abul Fadl, and Mariam Islam Said. I'm going to be talking about the things that we are going to discuss today in this video. I'm going to be talking about syntax, and Farid is going to be talking about traditional grammar, and Mariam is going to be talking about the constituency test. I'm going to be starting with the syntax. Noam Chomsky's aspect of the theory of syntax, published in 1965, was a landmark work in generative grammar that introduced certain technical innovations still drawn upon in contemporary work. The fifth anniversary uh, edition of this influential book includes a new preface by the author that identifies proposals that seem to be of lasting significance. Reviews, changes, and improvements in the formulation and implementation of basic ideas, and addresses some of the controversies that arose over the general framework. Beginning in the mid-50s and imitating largely from MIT, linguists developed an approach to linguistic theory and to the study of the structure of particular languages that diverged in many respects from conventional modern linguistics. Although the new approach was connected to the traditional study of languages, it differed enough in its specific conclusions about the structure of languages to a warrant name, generative grammar, which Faye is going to be discussing later. Various defenses were discovered in the first attempts to formulate a theory of transformational generative grammar and in the descriptive analysis of particular languages that motivated these formulations at the time. It became apparent that these formulations can be extended and deepened in this book. Chomsky reviews these developments and proposes a reformulation of the theory of transformational generative grammar that takes them into account. The emphasis in the study is syntax. Semantic and phonological aspects of the language structure are discussed only insofar as they bear on syntactic theory. Secondly, the history of syntax. The history of thinking about and describing syntax goes back thousands of years. But from the perspective of theorizing about syntax, which is our concern here, a critic point of departure in Chomsky's syntactic structure, I'm going to be discussing the shift to standard theory and constraining movement. The standard theory of generative grammar corresponds to the original model of generative grammar laid out by Chomsky in 1965. A core aspect of standard theory is the distinction between two different representations of a sentence, called deep structure and surface structure, and to the constraining movements. Constraints on movement in generative linguistics. A grammar of a given language is a hypothesis about a linguistic phenotype of the speakers of language, such as hypothesis is descriptively adequate only if it defines the only potential and actual grammatical sentence of the language. And this is the brief of the shift to standard theory and constraining movement. And more details are in the references that we have in the end of the slide. Now I'm going to be talking about the empirical approaches to syntax. Formal models of syntax face several problems. One is that often more than one rule of sentence production may apply to a structure, thus resulting in a conflict. The greater the coverage, the higher this conflict is. And all the grammarians, starting with Panini, have spent considerable effort devising a prioritization for the rules, which usually turn out to be infeasible. Another difficulty is overgeneration, where unlicensed structures are also generated. Problematic grammars circumvent these conflicts by using the frequency of a various production to order them, resulting in a most likely winner-take-all interpretation, which by definition is infeasible given additional data. As usages patterns are altered in the diachronic shifts, these problematic rules can be relearned, thus upgrading the grammar. One may construct a probabilistic grammar from a traditional formal syntax by taking some probability distribution over the production rules that is estimated from empirical data about actual usages of a sentence. One most samples of word languages probabilistic grammars that tune these probabilities from data typically outperform handcrafted grammars. Although some rule-based grammars are now approaching the accuracy of PCFG. Recently, probabilistic grammars appear to have gained some conjective plausibility. It is well known that there are degrees of difficulty in accessing different syntactic structures. Um, the accessibility tertiary for relative clauses. Probabilistic versions of minimalist grammars have been used to compete in information theoretic entropy values, which appears to correlate with psychological linguistics data on understandability and production difficulty. And this is the end for me now with Farida discussing traditional grammar.
Hello, I am Farida Islam. Now I'm going to talk about traditional grammar. And the first thing that I am going to talk about elements of the basic sentence structure. A sentence express a complete thought. A simple sentence consists of a subject and verb. Subject the subject names who or what the sentence is about. Some subjects are simple and identifying only one noun or pronoun. Other subjects are compound. Compound subjects contain two or more simple subjects joined with a coordinating conjunction such as and or. Im- Implied subjects is imperative, advice, or command sentences. The subject is an understood you thought. It may not appear in the sentence. Verb predict. A verb express action or state of being. Predict is the grammatical term given to the verb plus its objects, complements, and modifying. Okay, and now, okay, turn to the side. What is grammar? Grammar is a way of describing the structure of phrases and sentences, which will account for all the grammatical sequences and rule out all the ungrammatical sequences. There are two major approaches to grammar: traditional approach and structuralist approach. First, definition of traditional grammar. Traditional grammar plays a curious role in the teaching of linguistics. Um, and we have traditional grammar have perspective approach. Tradition is prescribed. Okay. It aims to prescribe rules for correct languages usage. It often focuses on norms and standards, attempting to define what is considered proper or acceptable in language. Based on Latin grammar, traditional grammar, especially in English, was heavily influenced by Latin grammar. This led to the emphasis on rules, like not ending sentences with propositions and avoid split infinitives, which are derived from Latin but don't necessarily apply to English. Also, traditional grammar emphasizes on syntax and morphology. Traditional grammar pays a lot of attention to sentence structure and word forms. It focuses on analyzing the inflectional and derivational properties of words. And now the structural grammar. Structured grammar takes a descriptive approach instead of prescribing rules. It aims to describe how language it is actually used by native speakers. This involves observing and analyzing the patterns of speech based on linguistic science. Structural grammar emerged from the rise of modern linguistics and was heavily influenced by the work of structuralists it places a strong emphasis on scientific analysis of language sciences. Okay, that's okay. Now we are going to talk about the parts of speech. Uh, Okay, we have eight parts of speech. The first one is noun. Um, Noun is a word that names a person or place, concept, or object. Basically, anything that name a thing is a noun. Whether you are talking about a basketball court, San Francisco, Cleopatra, or self-preservation. Okay. Second one is pronouns. Pronouns are words you substitute for specific nouns when the reader or listener already knows which specific noun you are referring to. You might say, Jennifer was supposed to be here at 8, then follow it with, she is always late. Next time, I will tell her to be here a half hour earlier. Okay. Instead of saying Jennifer's name three times in a row, you substituted she and her, and your sentences remain grammatically correct. Pronouns are divided into a number of categories, and we cover them all in our guide to pronouns. Third one is verbs. Okay, like go, be amazing, run, win, congratulate. Uh, Okay. Those bolded words are verbs. Verbs are words that describe specific actions like running, winning, and being. Not all verbs refer to literal actions, though verb that refers to feelings or states of being like to love and to be are known as non-action verbs. Conversely, the verbs that do refer to literal actions and are known as action verbs. Okay. Fourth one is adjectives. Adjectives are the word that describe noun. Uh, like think about your favorite movie. How would you describe it to a friend who has never seen it? Okay. Like it was funny, well written. Uh, Okay, fifth one is adverbs. Is a word that describe an adjective, a verb, or another adverb. Like I entered the room quietly. Then prepositions. Prepositions tell you the relationships between the other words in a sentence. You might say, "I left my bike leaning against the garage." Then conjunctions. Conjunctions make it possible to build complex sentences that express multiple ideas. Like, I like Mariana sauce and Alfredo sauce, but I don't like um, ketchup sauce. Okay. Then articles appear. The but okay. Okay, articles is that we define the word before and we put before it the or this. Like, did you buy the car? Malak, can you turn the PowerPoint? Okay, now we are going to talk about when a word can be different parts of speech. Like if we put word work. Um, first example, I went to work. This is noun. But when I work in the garden, this is verb. Um, the position of the word can change the meaning. Okay, and here, well, first example, she paints very well. This is adverb. They are finally well now after weeks of illness. This is adjective. I dropped a penny into the well. This is noun. Here we put but. I cooked breakfast and lunch, but Steve cooked dinner. Conjunction. I brought everything but the pens you asked for. Preposition. Okay. Now we are going to talk about weakest and strongest points um, in the traditional grammar. Um, Traditional grammar is its application of uniform rules derived from classical languages like Greek and Latin to analyze all languages, which proves problematic for languages with structurally different grammars, as it disregards language variation, uh, pri- prioritize written over oral language, and focuses only on select components of grammar, neglecting phonology and semantics. And now we are going to talk about the strong points. Uh, Traditional grammar's strengths lie in its establishment of the parts of speech, its widespread use globally, particularly in English education in countries like Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe, and its foundational role in identifying the structural elements of sentences, including the classification of sentences into different types. And now with Mariam, she is going to talk about the constituency test.
Okay, so starting off in constituency tests in linguistics are crucial for examining the linguistic theories and hypotheses. These tests help ensure that linguistic analysis remain internally coherent and logically sound. Substitution tests involve replacing elements within a linguistic structure to assess its flexibility and adherence to grammatical rules. Question tests evaluate the ability of linguistic analysis to generate appropriate question based on the given structure, probing its syntactic and semantic properties. Conjunction tests assesses the compatibility of linguistic elements when combined, shedding light on their syntactic and semantic interactions. Together, these tests provide valuable insights into the structure and functioning of language, aiding in the refinement and validation of linguistics theories. And moving on to the next slide. Here are some complications in linguistics. Mismatches between syntactic structure and semantic interpretation highlight the flexibility of language. False negative results occur when a syntactic analysis fails to capture the intended meaning or lead to incorrect interpretations. This can occur due to syntactic ambiguity or the limitation of formal grammatical frameworks in capturing the richness of linguistic phenomena. Additionally, the distinction between phrasal and lexical constituencies plays a significant role in linguistics analysis. Phrasal consistency pertains to the coherence or cohesion with the sentence or phrase, while lexical constituencies concerned the compatibility of individual words within a syntactic structure, addressing these mismatches and understanding the nuance of phrasal and lexical constituencies are essential for refining linguistic theories and achieving a more comprehensive understanding of language structure and meaning. The last slide. Okay, one of the tools we have available to see whether the structure we are hypnotizing matches the actual structure of sentence is to see if the constituency is the hypothesized structure pass in the pass the consistency test. The consistency tests that we have talked about come in two general types: replacement tests and dislocation tests. The replacement tests work under the assumption on that if you can replace a group of words as a unit, then there are a single node in the tree that contain them all and nothing else, the simplest form. A good use of a replacement test will generally keep the meaning as close to the same as possible. It's unlikely that the meaning can be internally preserved when replacing a series of words with zero or more different words. That's it. That's our presentation. I hope you find it educational and useful. And these are the references.